YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Park and Bin Gear. And hopefully you've been subscribing and watching the videos, because I often refer to older videos. Okay, now as you may know, recently I was looking for a small amplifier that would be useful in a coffee house gig kind of setting, you know, where you can't bring a full-size amp, really, you know, it's a coffee house, which means relatively quiet. So I ran across the Fender Frontman 10G 10-watt amplifier. I can show it to you here. Okay. And this is it. It's tiny, right? Look at that. However, it's a full-fledged solid-state amplifier. I believe it has an 8-inch speaker. You know, and you wouldn't think much of this little amp. However, remember I use a bass amp and crossovers, which gives it a much bigger sound than on its own, right? And, well, here's the thing. I'd gotten one a tremendous deal at like $25 used. And I mean, this thing was in perfect condition, really. So I went looking for a second one because I play in stereo, left and right. And I went to eBay, right? Only because every other place I looked, you know, they were basically charging as much to ship the amp as what they were asking for it, you know. And new, I mean, they're under $100, they're like $89 or something like that. So anyway, I saw an ad, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. And it was that, well, they had advertised the amplifier for sale, said it was in good condition. However, they never showed a picture of the amp at all, right? They only showed the picture of the box. And I was like, man, I don't know. You know, it's the box. I mean, I'm basically buying it unseen. And because of that, I made a low offer, quite frankly, right? Thinking that they'd come back, you know, with a counter offer or what have you. But surprisingly, they accepted my offer, and it was about $34, something like that. Shipped, right? I mean, that's pretty crazy. So I didn't get my hopes up. I was thinking, man, you know, especially with the experience I had. Hopefully you're following the channel, because I had spoken about having ordered one of these and getting it, and it was terrible. It was instead of a Fender, it was a Squire. Right, and of course the input jack was all messed up and things. In other words, you couldn't push the cable all the way in, so it would pop out and cause dropouts and stuff like that. And the speaker was not blown, but very worn to where it would overdrive very easily, kind of distort. So that wasn't a good experience at all. And here I had no idea. I was thinking, oh man, what have I gotten myself into this time? You know. So anyway, I got it, and I opened the box. Yeah, I can show it to you here. And it came really nicely packed. 2 boxes. So I guess we're kind of having an unboxing alert. Only trained professionals should attempt. Right? Except the product's not in there. But, so this is the box they advertise. Right? It was double boxed, by the way. And, well, it's a Fender box, and to my surprise, I mean, it had everything. You know, it had the Frontman 10G manual, right? And let me put this away. Okay, and beyond that, bonus! Look at this. A Fender instrument cable. Wow, and it doesn't look like a cheapo either. You know, one of those cheap plastic ones. It's actually pretty nice. And on top of that, bonus! Look at this. How cool is this? Fender Premium Celluloid Picks. 351 shape. Look at that. Pack of picks. And as I pulled out the amp, I saw that basically, I mean, it's basically in brand new condition. I mean, take a look at this, really. I mean, this is it. It still has all the tags on it and everything. Right? So that was really promising. And it looked freaking brand new. This is what I'd hoped for, you know, but wasn't expecting, quite frankly. Well, I guess the next step was to try it, and I did, and sure enough, it was in perfect working condition. And that includes the stuff you don't see, you can't see. And that is, how is the speaker, right? Compared to the Squier one I had received, where the speaker is pretty much shot. I mean, that's a good word for it, because you can't say it was blown, you know, but it had a tendency to fart out, if you like, flub out, you know, kind of distort in certain key frequencies. Here, this isn't the case at all. I mean, the speaker is solid, doesn't flub out at all. Pretty incredible, quite frankly. So much so that, well, I'm going to ask him if he's got any more. And if he'd sell them to me at that price. That's crazy. So, really, really pleased as far as that goes. And, on top of that, if you take a listen to it, it's actually a really interesting sound. something. There is the alternative to this amp is the Vox Pathfinder 10, which I hope to try at some point. In fact, some of you out there may own a Vox Pathfinder 10. And while it has a smaller speaker, it has a great clean sound, you know, for solid state. And I mean, these are considered practice amps. Okay. But they can also be much more than that, you know. And just due to their size, they're perfect for kind of, you know, radio gigs if you get invited to play radio, or coffee house gigs, those kinds of things, small gigs. And these are unusually loud, the Frontman 10G. However, the Vox probably has a better sound, clean sound. However, the Vox is bigger than these little Frontman 10Gs. And I'm totally blown away by the sound I get when I add the bass and crossovers, you know, to basically have this little tiny setup and get a pretty big sound out of it, you know. And this is why I went with the Fender Frontman 10G and not the Vox Pathfinder 10, is simply the size of the amp, you know. And doesn't mean I'm not going to try the Vox Pathfinder 10 at some point, you know. Because I've heard that it's, even though it has a 6.5-inch speaker, compared to the Frontman 10G, which I believe has an 8-inch speaker. Oops, I stand corrected. The Fender Frontman 10G has a 6-inch speaker. So, 0.5 inches smaller than the Vox Pathfinder 10. But the cabinet of the Vox is a lot bigger. So much so that a lot of people pull out the 6.5-inch speaker and put in an 8-inch speaker. Whereas these are just stock, have a little 6-inch speaker. And it sounds fine, you know. Normally on little tiny amps, you know, the bottom end flubs out and all this. But because I use a bass amp and crossover system, they don't get a lot of bass, so that's not even an issue, you know. Just the mids and highs are taken by these little Frontman 10Gs. And I don't know, to me they look great. I mean, they really look great, and the knobs are very nice too. They don't feel cheap or anything like that, you know. And they take pedals really well too. It's kind of... going through my pedal board and those kinds of things. And in fact, what I can do is, let's do it this way. Well, if I remove the bass, this is kind of what it sounds like. Well, that's kind of a puny sound now, isn't it? That I bring back the bass. Just fantastic. Man, I'm very, very pleased. And the thing that's coming out of these little tiny amps is awesome. Now, I will say, as you'll recall, I had gotten the Fender Rumble 15 pawn shop bass amp for $30. And it's the old version that's carpeted and things. And I actually use it all the time, and I really like it. But I will say that cosmetically, if I got a new Fender Rumble 15, it would fit perfectly cosmetically, because it would look just like the Frontman 10G. You know, so you'd have the little bass amp and the little two Fenders, and they'd look alike. You know, not that that's all that important, but anyway, there you go. And yeah, I'm just very, very pleased with them. You know, and they definitely have their own kind of sound. You know. They're a little bit smaller than the Orange Crush 12 amp, you know, a little practice amp. Definitely sound a little different, you know, has its own sound, both of them. But I have to admit, I'm quite surprised by the volume that you can get from these little Fender amps, you know. Enough for a coffee house gig. And I'm talking solo guitar, you know, for me in particular with looping and those kinds of things, you know. Anyway, yeah, so this was great. Great. In fact, I'm quite honestly, this one looks, the one I got, the little Frontman 10G right here, right, is, well, it it looks almost nicer than the one I had before, you know. Yeah, and I'm really going to enjoy playing this, you know, just this setup in my living room, you know, when I'm watching a movie or the TV of some sort. And, you know, I just want to play a little bit, and these would be perfect for that. So this was a great deal, and quite surprising. And I think that they could have asked a little more for it, you know. Had I known, you know, that it was in such good condition and things, I would have offered them more. But, you know, the fact that they only had the box on display, sight unseen, you know, as far as the amp goes, that's why I offered such a low price. Not expecting them, quite frankly, to accept it, but they did. Anyway, I'm going to see if they've got any more of these. Alright, very good. See you next time.